Good morning, traders. Welcome to the Flow Show. Here we are, Monday, the 28th of April. Month end approaching. We've early date in the month, so look out for those hourlies. See if we get any price moves around those times. Could indicate some end of month stuff going through. Morning, Kay. You all set for this week?
Morning, Ryan. Yep, all ready to go. It does look like we've having already a few flows here and there this morning. Yeah, already made. There's a lot going to be happening this week, so we are excited to be in this market again this week.
Absolutely. There's a lot to look over this week, so we'd like to get you prepped. So let's have a quick run through all the headlines, and then we'll see what's coming up this week on the data front and event front. China Foreign Minister spokesman says there have not been any calls with the US recently. We're not engaged with trade talks with the US, and Xi and Trump did not have a call recently, despite Trump saying that they did. So someone's still telling porkies somewhere. Besant was speaking at some point, I can't remember, it was Friday over the weekend, interviewed, and was not drawn over whether Trump and Xi have spoken. He was not willing to commit to what Trump was saying about all this, which might indicate maybe there's some trouble brewing. Trump doesn't often like people going against his rhetoric, but Besant at the moment is coming out as some are calling him the only adult in the room so far. But he was questioned a lot on what's been going on. Didn't confirm it or deny it, but wasn't playing to Trump's tune at that point. Over in Japan, the top currency diplomat, as they're called, Mimura, or as he's called Mimura, denies that the US Treasury Secretary Besant said a stronger yen was preferable. That's according to sources. They also said that in the finance minister talks, there was no talks about an FX target during those US-Japan meetings, much along the lines of what we had late last week, that the G7 reaffirmed their FX statement. And that would have been green lit by the US as well. And Besant hadn't looked to target a specific level in the yen. Bank of England's Green says we're not sure if weakness in the economy is caused by supply or demand. We've no idea what US tariffs will look like when the dust settles. Absolutely no idea why she actually went and did a speech, because she hasn't got a clue about anything at the moment. Says the UK labour market has been weakening pretty slowly, and we should see wage growth continuing to come down. Victor Villeroy at the ECB says we still have a margin for rate cuts in Europe. We are in a moment of great economic uncertainty. Says Trump's policies are not working. American protectionism is not working. Does not see any extra inflation for Europe, and repeats that it doesn't see a recession in France or Europe. You can talk about not working, but there's not much working going on in the French economy at the moment. ECB's Lagarde on Friday said global inflation is projected to gradually decline. More speaking about the Eurozone, says the labour market is still resilient. We've seen an increase in downside risks to economic growth, and inflation is expected to hover around 2%. We do get a ton of inflation readings from the Eurozone flash numbers, so that's going to be important this week as well. Anyway, a German ambassador says that a UK-EU summit in May could lay the ground for a review of the post-Brexit deal. That's according to the FT. So we're going to be getting that saga kicking up again. Looking forward to that. Bit of data going back to last week. We had Canada retail sales coming out pretty healthy. The headline numbers not looking good, down 0.4%, but core sales, or take out autos, came in up a healthy 0.5%. Not sure why it's not showing on that calendar. Oh, there it is there. Core sales, they call it. So half decent numbers there from Canada. We've seen a bit of this is March data, Sorry, this is February data, so it's a bit old, but it follows the line of what we've seen in other countries, seeing a decent start to the new year. Whether it's front running or not, I don't know, but it seems to be a theme at the moment. We had the final Michigan numbers, which saw a bit of an improvement over their flash numbers. As you can see there by the green. We also had a little tick down in the one-year inflation expectations to 6.5% from 6.7. That was a big jump over the prior month of 5% previously. A little bit volatile, those numbers there. And all the regional Fed banks who are doing their let's see if we can guess GDP for the next quarter, roll out with their models. The Atlanta Fed last week still showing Q1 as a negative, down 2.5% for their GDP now. That's worse than the prior, down 2.2%. But if you live in New York or St. Louis, it's better news because they see Q1 at 2.63 in New York. That's up from 2.58, and in St. Louis they see 3.07, up from a prior 2.38. So bit of a mix and match there between the Fed regions. Not that we should pay much notice to any of those. Trump says trade deals are going well. We're very close to a deal with Japan. Russia, Ukraine is coming along. Tariff plan is doing very well. He says markets are adjusting to tariffs. I'd say they're pretty bored of all the tariff headlines personally, but I'm not the president. He says Ukraine has not signed the final papers on the rare earths deal. So that's still ongoing. US officials apparently, according to the Wall Street Journal, are planning to conduct staggered trade negotiations using a new template that apparently sets common terms for many of the talks. That's according to sources. Wall Street Journal also reporting that China has quietly exempted some US-made products from tariffs. So maybe a little olive branch being offered there. North Korea, they finally confirmed what we all knew already, that they sent troops to Russia to fight in Ukraine. Back to Trump, speaking about Ukraine, says the Zelensky meeting went well. We'll see what happens in the coming days. He's very disappointed in Russia, wants Putin to stop shooting and reach a deal. Says the confines of a deal are there. Foreign Minister Lavrov says international recognition of occupied areas is necessary as part of any deal. Oh, got through that pretty quickly for once. Kate, any extras or anything you want to comment about on that lot?
No, not really. Everything is still up in the air. It looks like there's some. Well, the market at least is hanging on to whatever positive there can be. So yeah, we will see how that evolves. There's a lot to happen this week. So we will watch and count the points and then react to it, I guess.
Yep, they're going to be rolling with the punches again. I just wanted to ask quickly because we did have the sight deposits this morning from the Swiss, and there was a bit of a change to their numbers. Anything of note out of that lot?
Not really. They were slightly up on the prior week. I wouldn't. I no, I wouldn't hang my hat onto those too much. I'm rather always looking at what they come up with start of the new month when the old month is finished. We will know relatively soon. Next week we should know whether they have done anything at all in this month, which I would not completely rule out this time. No, the side deposits. No, not really. But they SMB did change the threshold on some of those on some of the deposits, brought it down just slightly. I don't know whether it's just a cosmetic change or if it will create or bring a few flows with it. I mean, it's literally 0.2% or 0.02% or so, so shouldn't really materially change a lot. But I unless we see a big variation in those data, looking at the fact that they are slightly higher than last week, that would hint at no interventions, perhaps, but we can never rule it out because we have seen pretty decent moves, and those side deposits are not always reflecting exactly what is happening. It could just be that I'm just going to give an example. I'm not saying that is the case, but like a big Middle Eastern account has come to Switzerland and paid for his expensive parking place for his money, and that already is good enough to get those side deposits up. But yeah, I'm not going to read too much in those variations this week.
Cool. Thanks, mate. Right, let's have a look into what's coming up this week. Not too busy a day today, particularly in the US. And just to give a quick heads up, Thursday is a bit of a bank holiday in Europe, May Day. So a lot of countries in Europe are going to be closed. The UK is going to be on a bank holiday next Monday as well, so the 5th. So keep an eye on that one. So yeah, not too much coming out from the US today. Tomorrow, we start ramping up a little bit on the data. We get some inventories data, some house price data. We also get JOLTS and the Conference Board consumer confidence number, which might be a bit important, particularly for those inflation expectations once again. Wednesday is, as I say, kicks off with some flash CPI data coming out. We also get a bit out of Japan, some retail sales, industrial production, Aussie CPI coming out, a bit of China data, retail sales from Germany. Then we get France CPI, Spain CPI, and a ton of others. We get the regional German numbers coming out. We also are getting Q1 GD prints starting to roll off from several countries as well, including Europe. So this is going to be a particularly big week for the ECB because the market is expecting them to cut in June, and this data might add or take away from that. Obviously, we've got ADP employment as well, US GDP, and we've also got PCE coming out, although once again, Powell has spoilt that party by giving us probably the numbers for that as well. And then we get a bit more housing data too. So pretty busy Wednesday on the data front. Hopefully it'll give us some decent moves. Then on Thursday, we have the Bank of Japan announcement coming out in the early hours. Could there still be a surprise hike, Kay?
Well, I mean, I don't know. The Cato and Bassett are a bit confusing in their talks. Cato has actually, they said that they didn't talk about levels, but he refused to comment on the actual wording of the talks. So could there be a twist in the tail that they agree on, in between brackets, letting the yen strengthen a bit, in which case we may get a surprise hike by the Bank of Japan. But I'm not sure that they will be influenced by all of that right here and now because the talks are not done. So I'm gonna go with a majority then, but still keep a fair bit of potential for a surprise hike, but saying that they won't do anything this week. But as you said, I mean, if you look through the week in general, there's a lot of stuff to happen with add a few elections and stuff on top.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that is today as well. Canada elections, they're going to the polls. So I don't know if we start to get that sort of stuff dropping out tonight or tomorrow. Find out what happens. I don't think there's much to do for this, is there, in terms of the loony?
Well,
Whether it's
if you
Carney or the other geezer.
if you listen to what people are saying online, which I usually don't, uh, kind of saying and thinking that if it's Carney, perhaps a little lower the Canadian dollar, so higher dollar CAD, and vice versa. If the Conservatives win, looking at a slightly more positive relationship with Trump, perhaps, and the Canadian dollar strengthen a bit. But this is one of those elections where I'm not really not going to take a side at all, at all.
Yeah, me neither. Me neither. Yeah, so on Thursday, further on, we get the final manufacturing PMIs, also Challenger job cuts, which I like to keep an eye on just to see how those layoffs. We've had some chunky numbers being thrown about recently, likes of Intel and others. So that's been running a bit hot of late, but it hasn't yet been translating into massive layoffs. These things can be a bit forward-looking, though. People announce layoffs doesn't mean they're happening right away. It just means their intention to lay off at some point. But this report just takes when that gets announced, not when it happens. We get ISM. There's a bit of a wonky week. Usually we get both ISM reports before an NFP, and the market can use the employment components just to make a last minute choices or decisions about the NFP and expectations. But we only get the manufacturing number. The services number is coming out next Monday. So there'll be no input from that into the NFP report. And that all happens obviously on Friday, but we get a bit of data out as well. Unemployment rate from Japan, retail sales and PPI from Australia, and then some further PMI finals from Europe. And then we get the flash Eurozone CPI number on Friday as well. And then it's jobs data from the US. No double bubble this month. There's no Canadian jobs alongside those numbers there. So busy week this week. Anything else among that? Look, you got your eye on, Kay?
No, I think that's exactly what's going on. What is, well, it's not exactly this week, but the one thing where we have to keep an eye on, and that's the Aussie, because at the end of the week we are going into elections in Australia as well. So I would suspect that obviously it's going to be driven by headlines, or that those jobs numbers in the US, where apparently this month, finally, we will see the impact of the Doge layoffs. But it could get a bit erratic in the Aussie dollar going into the end of the week. It's actually strengthening quite a bit. Well, quite a bit. We're still hanging around 64, but it is doing quite a bit better this week. I'm not sure what the elections are going to give, but I just would like to point to it and say that it may get a bit wonky in the Aussie as the week progresses.
Well, I hope something kicks it out this this malaise we've been in for the last nearly 3
Yeah,
weeks.
I mean this morning it was looking a bit weaker, and I said like, oh, okay, maybe we're going to see a bit of a test of the lower end. Also somewhere keeping month end or so in mind, and then the first move is back up to 64. So
Yeah,
yeah, it still looks underpinned, and let's put it that way. On resets, it still looks quite big actually.
yeah. I'm staying out the noise. I've got my buy stops in play, and everyone else can mess around with it around 64. I'll wait till it either breaks or it doesn't. I can't be bothered to be pissing around in the middle. But that's my trading book anyway. So yeah, Aussie dollar, as I said, pretty clear what's going on here in this one at the moment. It's either going to have to take out that 64.40. The longer we go without doing that, though, the greater the risk is that we see a bit of a steeper pullback. But whether that can dip too far, back below 50s, get below this 30 level, which is a bit of an interim important level there. If we break in that, we're probably heading down to 63 at the least, and maybe that zone again down there. Euro dollar, I'm still in. It's another one still in no man's land for me. We're pinging 113, 114 at the moment, inside the wider 112, 115. So again, if you want to mess around in between, be my guest. But this one could be a bit of a move, okay, with all this data. I know central banks aren't important right now because everyone's waiting for the trade stuff, but you've still got to keep your finger on the pulse for the data, because we're not up here near 115 because the eurozone is doing well. So if we get a trade resolution, the euro's then got to stand up under its own steam of the fundamentals.
I would say so. I would say so. And again, we may have like a two-part week, either remaining a bit quiet or so. I don't know, but the dollar is relatively weak this morning for some reason. Um, we may see a week in two parts. There again, get the month-end stuff out of the way, and then resume what we were doing before. And my first impression for this week, if even if the market is um, aware of those numbers in the jobs report in the US being potentially weak this week due to the Doge effect for a starter, and perhaps a bit of how should I say, people being reluctant to hire because they didn't know because of the tariffs. So even if it may be prepared already, I still think that it will have an impact, because when the market gets what it wants, it can push the button. So I would say like a hesitant week for that euro dollar to start with. And then second part of the week, I this is how I look at it anyway. Second part of the week, we could go for a look above again. That's how I kind of look at this week.
Yeah, and just looking at some of these early numbers for the NFP, 129 expected. No estimate for the government payrolls. So this is, and we'll talk about this obviously later in the week, but just to give an early heads up, we're going to have to see what the headline number is, and then a quick
Mhm.
look at that government number to see if that's where the impact is. If that comes in as flat, or plus 20k or something, and we get the negative non-farm payrolls, that will show you that something else is going on. So that's just an early read on how we're going to look at that one. But yeah, euro dollar
Market,
could
and the
could
market
be a
may
mover.
front run it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. But we never know. You never know with the NFP. It's still a complete lottery as to whether it shows up. But if it's going to, well, we still haven't seen anything in the jobless claims. But I know there's all stuff going on where government workers have been laid off, but they're still sort of seeing out contracts and pay
Yeah.
stuff till September or something. So that may not come into the jobless claim numbers just
Mhm.
yet. It's all a fluid situation, and we don't know what's going to happen. But
And who
we know,
produces the numbers and when?
yeah, exactly. So
Because there's that is never clear in my mind anyway.
exactly. So we know the risk anyway. So it won't be a shock if we do see a big negative due to those government numbers. But that will come Friday. Couple of bits I'm just still keeping an eye on before I punch it over to Mr. K. Dollar Mex, still on the short side of this one, still going relatively well. We're tapping the lows, but it's all slowed up a tiny bit. Need to see a move under 1950, 52 that actually holds. It's a bit like the new 63, 65 odd. We had a few little moves under, but it can't hold, and then maybe it starts to hold. So this 50, 52 level is the next one I'm keeping an eye on. If we do get a break there, then I should think we're going to be on for a move to the 38.2 here at the 1936, 37 area. So it's going to be one to keep an eye on for me anyway. And dollar China we still can't really get away from this 728 level. And again, if we get some decent headlines out of China, US talks, they still seem to be playing hardball. Kay, I wanted to speak about this because as much as on the face of it, and we said it last week, both sides are playing to their home audiences, but we keep getting these little headlines that China are doing a little bit of tinkering on the quiet on
Yeah.
tariffs and this and that. So, are they offering some olive branches to the US?
It could be, and there was this interesting article, but in the knowledge that the U.S. companies have not replied to requests for comments, but some of them, like Walmart, etc., are asking the resumption of shipments from China into the U.S., and then we hear something about China going back. It seems they're playing a bit of under the hood, and not bring it too much in the open. There's also seemingly a new Tsar, or at least one who is stepping forward more now. His name is He, by the way. So if you wonder where he is, he's in China.
Hee.
And yeah, I think in the end, it's it's probably it may go like this for a long while, right? Take 10% of here, take 15% of there, open a
Yeah.
market just for one thing, but then continue to hammer each other on cars or rare earths and LNG and all that kind of stuff. It may be going like that for months, um, but it seems like G is G is playing its hardball with Trump. He really wants Trump to pick up the phone first, right?
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
that that I think between the two of them, Trump is always saying like, "Oh yeah, they contacted us," or he even contacted me. I don't believe a word of it. I don't think that G picked up the phone. But yeah, it's going to be uh, a big amount of very small battles. That's a big number of very small battles. That's how it looks to go for the moment, anyway. And then bringing that to the dollar China is it's very hard to pick a side unless um, because you have the opposite. China can go like cutting rates, cutting RRR, which would be negative for the Chinese yuan. But then on the other side, if they get trade deals with countries or blocks ex US, that should be a positive, right? So it may be a bit of a we may have to wait for longer before we see any clarity in the Chinese yuan.
Yeah, good point. Maybe you have to start looking at some of the other China crosses, maybe to see if there's any opportunities there. Right, I'm going to stick it over to you, mate, for a couple. If I'm in the right screen, no, I'm not. Let's have a look in there. All yours, Governor.
Thank you. First of all, let's see what's happening in gold. Gold is correcting, consolidating. I said last week, I said, don't be surprised this to happen, because if you get less pure stress or a bit less tension, immediate tension, there will be less need for the hedge, probably positioning as well. I'm not sure if this is going to play out. I think it's more a case of um, yeah, do we need the hedges or not? So I'm not ruling out actually a move back down a little more than where we are now. I think it's all very possible. Where it holds, I don't know, but I think for the time being, um, it's less of a case of needing to buy. So if you bring it back to what the Asian market is doing, we saw a little bit of demand again, but nothing like the big demand sessions that we saw earlier during the month of April, especially the first 3 weeks of April were extremely bid on that in that sense. We're seeing less demand now, and I think it may continue for a while. I'm not saying we're going to crash away. I don't think it's time yet to crash away, but we are month end. We are uh, in a week where we have data. Interest rates look to be coming down a bit, which should hold the slump. But we've also seen that gold has not really taken too much notice of what was happening in the bond market. So I would be very careful with that, really, with that correlation. So I do think we can see it a bit lower to start the week. Um, and then we will see what happens once we are again at 3,200, 3,170. It's all possible. Just bear in mind that in the very long term, this is still very bullish, right? I mean, we are in a way all day traders, but and $100 is a big move, but we've seen very, very, very big moves to the way up. So there is room really to correct further. And I would say there is a decent a half decent argument for this to correct further into month end, perhaps, unless we get an adverse headline, of course. We're seeing the same thing on a lot of the metals, silver included. We couldn't hold the break above 33, 33 and a quarter. It's also correcting because he's the same thing happening as in gold, but I would say perhaps a bit of a slower grind lower because of the nature perhaps that the gold silver ratio is going to remain a little heavy. That was what I would expect when things are less tense in the trade wars and in the global world. So perhaps silver is going to hold up a little better, but I also wouldn't rule out a move back to low 32s at some stage to start the week here. If we get back above 33, 65, 80, then we are off to the races, I think, but not before. Just keep yeah, I would say keep a rangy feeling in this one with anywhere 32, 32.10 as the bottom end. I wouldn't be surprised to see the mount come in if we get back down to low 32s in the short end. There's one interesting one here is euro sterling. It is trying to go. Now, it's been heavier. And on Friday, I know we had a bit of a short covering rally again, as we have seen so many times once we get into this zone. But we are stopping earlier, and today we went through. Really, I think we can go. I think we can go lower, perhaps down to 84, 50, 60, or 84 and a quarter. But watch the clock, because this could be a case of having 2 or 3 sessions of euro sterling being heavy, and then watch what's happening at the end of the month as well. We have seen it happen over the course of the European morning, so that um, tells me that it may just be month end. Okay, so don't get sucked in. You can trade it if you want, because I think it is a bit of the natural way it was going as well. You can trade it if you want. I'm probably going to or have already done, but it is really going to be short-term stabs because I don't know whether this break is just month end or whether there's something more happening here and euro sterling is just going to go back down to lower levels. So I don't know. I know you guys are watching the cable. It's bit and it could be for the same reason. It could be month end, okay? So be a bit careful. Be also a bit careful because we are trading value date end of month. We may have some US corporate activity. The models are telling us that there should be some dollar demand, but we have seen those month end calls getting thrown out of the window 24 hours before the actual month end. It'll all depend how equity markets move, because those moves are significant for the direction of the month-end flows, and we have seen very inverse or broken correlations. So for the time being, I would not disagree with what those models are showing, but be very careful because of those broken correlations that we had over the past, especially the past month of April, but it could get quite lively into month end, I think. No, Ali, I'm just having short-term stabs. I covered it on Friday, pretty okay, around that 85, 20, 25 on the euro sterling, but I'm just having like short-term stabs. I'm have nothing live in it for the time being. Um, what else are we watching? Maybe the Aussie and the Kiwi. Yeah, the Aussie. It's still beat, but as Ryan already showed, this is a big zone here. Um, I'm not going to have too many positions unless we break, and then I'm also going to have a close eye on the clock, because if it would be really a month-end thing, it may break and then fizzle out again. And as I already said earlier on the show, expect Aussie to go a bit erratic on position adjustments going into the elections. It's a bit of a mixed bag over there and a very uncertain situation depending on whether you look at the one or the other poll. So that could go really both ways. Not going to look at the Canada because I have no idea on those elections. Usually I have opinions about many things, but this time I have absolutely no interest and no idea on the Canadian dollar. Kiwi, it's sideways. Okay, so this one is probably going to disappear. It's sideways. Yes, we're coming down a little bit. Also, Aussie Kiwi is trading a bit higher. I would not be surprised if we get a bit of a test of this 59, 58, 90, 95. But then I just want to repeat every time, watch the clock, watch if it happens over fixings or especially the 4 p.m. London fixing, watch what's happening. We could be in for a move lower and then ramp higher again as month-end is finished. Yeah, I think we could go there and then see what happens. If of course we are starting to break back above 60, forget about it, and then we're probably going for a retest of that 60, 35, 40 and trade higher, which ultimately, I still think we may get a really decent test of this level again. But just keep in mind the timeline as well. It may have to wait just a little bit before it happens. Dollar Swiss derivatives, yes, the Swiss has been very interesting. We did see a good move higher again. But watch this zone here, 83.30 up to 83.70. It has been a top here. It has been a bottom here. So keep an eye on that level if it goes. Um, Swiss is behaving a little bit weaker. But again, I mean, we never know on mountains. We have had very bizarre mountains in the Swiss franc over the last, call it even the whole of last year actually. Mountains have been very strange in the Swiss franc sometimes, so bear that in mind as well. On the day, support I would say 82, 60, 65. If it gets back below 82, 60, 60, 65, we may see a little lower. But again, bearing in mind what Mountain may do, it could it could see some support. Euro Swiss is and Ryan has been trading that really nicely. I think Euro Swiss here is in an interesting zone as well. Anywhere around that 94.40, 94.60 zone is something that we need to keep an eye on. I think is the 50% of the whole move lower, and also another FIP coming up there. We also saw it's been a level that's been traded here, even here. So keep an eye on that 94.40. If we see a move lower again, I will try it again. But that's going to have to be a month and move or so, bringing it back down, if already it would. But I will get very interested to get back in there as well. You're still in that for a bit, Ryan, as well?
Yeah, still got a bit
Yeah,
on,
that's a
mate.
nice one. That was a real nice one. I did like I already very often did is get the first 50 60 pips and then watch the rest go. No, nice hold, mate. That's good.
Yeah, thanks, mate. But didn't get on as much as I'd like because I was trying to buy it all the way down
Yeah,
to that 92 again. But I'm not gonna complain, obviously. But yeah, you bang on that 50 is the level at the moment on the top.
yeah. Hmm. Okay. Look, we're going to keep it here for today. I think that we could talk a lot about yen and things, but I think the yen is going to get very interesting as the week progresses. Um, There are big levels up and down, but we really will have a close look at what how they look as we go into the Bank of Japan, go into the NFP. I think then the yen is really going to heat up. In the meantime, as we have seen with yen crosses, especially, they are doing much better. There's one actually, I'm still in this one, but in smaller. They are doing better. I think it's a lot more to do with risk than interest rates, for instance. But as Bank of Japan will be coming nearer, month end done, and then going into the US jobs report, I think it's going to really heat up in things all things yen. So we will have a very close look at what's happening in the yen later on in the week.
You
Thank
still in your
you,
Aussie
everybody,
yen?
and back over to you, Ryan.
You still in your Aussie yen, mate?
Sorry?
You still in your Aussie yen?
No, I flipped it into sterling yen.
Wow, yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, yeah, hopefully that will be a flyer for you as well, mate.
Yeah.
Michael, we can look at Aussie Kiwi in a room in a bit for that. Sorry, mate.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, Michael, we'll have a look at Aussie Kiwi in the chat room for you. As for that, thank you very much, everybody, for coming to the Flow Show. Don't forget to take advantage of our offers. We've got offers on our trader funding program and our platform as well. So check those out. Get best place to be this week with all this data and stuff going on. Other than that, have a great day, a great week, and we'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks a lot, everyone.